Hello everybody, this is Tom from the UBR, and welcome to the season premiere of UnBiased Reviews. Heavy Rain was a game that I had never heard of until recently. When it came around time to start writing new reviews, shortly after I had published my Gligar video, I played this game, and I knew that if anything was a great season opener, it would be this. It was a PlayStation exclusive that released a couple years ago, and it was released to critical acclaim, so what did I think of it? Here is the unbiased review of Heavy Rain on the PlayStation 3. Heavy Rain was a game that had an interesting premise. I had seen it on web videos like top 5 depressing games of all time, and I felt like I needed a change in pace amongst what I've been playing to prepare for this year. So along came Heavy Rain. It was a game that revolves around these 4 seemingly unrelated people, all with their own reasons for wanting to take down this game's villain, the Origami Killer, that has been kidnapping children in broad daylight and then drowning them in rainstorms, thus giving us our motif and story in one steady motion.
That was easy.
So now that we have our plot, how are the characters, and who are they? We have Ethan Mars, a dad who has a great life until his one son Jason dies at the hands of his carelessness in a mall, and now his other son has been kidnapped by the killer, and after having his wife divorce him, finding his son is the only thing of importance in Ethan's world. Then we have Norman Jaden, an agent from the FBI who has been dispatched to investigate the disappearance of these kids. Then we have Scott Shelby, a private detective working to find the killer, and Madison Page, an insomniac who sleeps in motels to avoid her problem, and runs into Ethan by coincidence and gets her own motives to try and find the Origami Killer. And surprisingly, all these characters are unrelated for most of the story, with the exception of Madison and Ethan. For example, Ethan and Scott never will meet face to face throughout the entire story. Now, the gameplay. All 4 of the characters have their own supporting characters and their own path to finding the killer, or all of them finding the killer. See, the thing about Heavy Rain is that there is no game over screen. No matter what you do, whether it be dialogue or actions, it cannot be taken back. The game has 2 differing types of choice. The first is momentary, where you can example being asked to a store clerk and still get the information you're looking for. Then, there are the dramatic actions, whether it be in dialogue or deciding whether or not to intervene in a rape scenario, or deciding to work on the case longer than you should, or cheaping out. The best part is that you never know what kind of choice will take effect. Then, depending on what you do, you can wind up with 20 different endings, where either the boy is saved or you fail miserably. The one I got was depressing, and just cut the credits with me in tears as if the game was taunting me, and I do mean that literally, and I haven't felt that way in a long time.
We'll always be together, right?
But the controls themselves are very weird, but a jewel of its own. You look around with the standard movement stick in most games. In most games you use a standard movement stick, but you only look in this one, and by holding down your right second trigger, you can walk in coordination with the stick. Not run, only walk. Then, to interact with items in the environment, you swing the other trigger in the direction or multiple directions required, in either a slow or immediate motion, depending on if you're, for example, putting down plates or scrubbing off your legs after a hot shower. Now, the whole shower and plates thing will get me a little bit off task and bring up a big point about this game. If you're one of those people that likes mindless action, not that that's a bad thing, because Wolfenstein is one of my guilty pleasures and a good game series. I'm just saying that this has really slow pacing for about the first 4 hours. Until the abduction, things go really slow. But many reviewers deducted points for things like this, like in the IGN review. Hear me out. Why do we love the people in our lives? Because they're real people. Why did people cry when they thought Bruce died in The Dark Knight Rises? Because we love the relatable people. We spent time with Bruce in his moments as a child and his moments moping in self-pity, even when it was pretty boring compared to the rest of his story. But this proves my effervescent point. Life is straightforward, and if these developers knew this, which they clearly did, they would know that you need to care for these people in order to be emotionally train-wrecked multiple times throughout the story. And that's why there were hours playing sword fights with your children, kissing your wife, and then finally crying your eyes out when your son was hit by the car coming across the street. This game will get you to care for these characters, and in part it's because everybody in this movie is acted so damn well and so down to earth. From the borderline suicidal, desperate Ethan Mars, to the Detective Scott Shelby with his own motives which not even the player knows. Everybody's acted like this, and it looks like a movie, and it sounds and feels like a movie. But as far as the gameplay goes, which I'm sorry I got off track even though these are scripted reviews, it relies on QuickTime events whenever it gets violent, and though I don't have a problem with it, I know, I didn't have a problem with a QuickTime event. The world must be ending. But Heavy Rain is a true and genuine exception. When it relies upon storytelling and narrative, you don't feel like you're playing a game, you feel like you are the game. Because this was practically an interactive movie more so than a game. I would rather have the quick time than pressing stupid combos that don't flow with the gameplay. Even so, this game doesn't have difficulty in the quick time, but once again, you don't notice it when you're playing because you could care less about the gameplay. Now, my conclusion. Heavy Rain is the best game I have ever played. Period. There's no debating it. From the legitimate tears I had when I was forced to cut off my own finger, or when a character hung himself in one of the bad endings, every moment had me hooked. I never knew what was going to happen or what the circumstances would be. When I founded UnBiased Reviews, myself and all my fellow reviewers agreed on a rating system. If the game has a fault, you take off from the game depending on how much it hindered you. Or your experience, for that matter. Now, this game was a game where I legitimately had the perfect experience. I had a 24-hour heavy raining experience because, while in the beginning I was botching the QuickTime events for putting down plates on purpose, or drinking beer and shooting hoops while my child went hungry, it was only because I wasn't used to that kind of gameplay. But after a while, when the story picked up, and I took it seriously, I got hooked. I played it all the way through and had the best experience ever in my gaming. I give Heavy Rain a full 10 out of 10 with my full enthusiasm. I highly recommend you buy this game, and it truly is a shame that it's a PlayStation exclusive, simply on the grounds that I believe this is so good, everybody should have the ability to experience it sometime in their life. Well guys, this is Tom from the UBR, and all of you have a good day, and welcome to UnBiased Reviews. For those of you still there, one of the new things we bring to Season 2 is the UnBiased Reviews website. For all the news on what we're doing next, what we've done, and some reviews from people that cannot appear on camera due to them not being in the same location as us where we film, go to www.unbiasedreviewsshow.weebly.com. You won't regret it. See you on the next show, guys.